That's Manhattan Island down there.
Manhattan Island? How could it be Manhattan Island? Where's the skyline? Where are all the buildings?
You're traveling to another dimension. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone.
Once again, we're taking flight into the murky skies of the fifth dimension. This time around, we'll steer clear of the infamous gremlin who tormented William Shatner, but we'll face a very different kind of nightmare. Because today's destination on our Twilight Zone Review Marathon is the Odyssey of Flight 33.
Let's do it.
This series tale is essentially a fifth dimension spin of the Flying Dutchman, a myth which refers to an infamous ghost ship that was lost and doomed to sail the seas forever. The Odyssey of Flight 33 was directed by Justice Addis, and this was another entry written by the series creator Rod Serling.
You'll sit in these seats and you'll go through an experience unique beyond words and tense beyond anything I believe you've ever seen.
However, this one is unique in that it features an assist by Rod's older brother, Robert, who was a prominent aviation writer for United Press International. So who better to help Rod out when it came to crafting authentic cockpit dialogue for the episode?
Check. Captain Gander wants to know if you intend an altitude change after we pass 30 West.
So, buckle up as we soar into Season 2, Episode 18 of Twilight Zone, The Odyssey of Flight 33.
Gentlemen, you'll be pleased to know that thanks to the quality of this aircraft and the fine weather, my brilliant flying, we'll hit Idlewild on schedule.
The episode opens on a solid note. Global Airlines Flight 33 is cruising in from London to New York, and all seems well. Up front, we get friendly banter among our ensemble cast, which mixes naturally with the genuine cockpit lingo provided by Rod's big brother. But this deceptively ordinary start cleverly disarms us for the madness to come.
11:20. 1500.
12:33 to Weathership Charlie.
God in heaven, I can't even keep up with it.
The men you've just met are a trained, cool, highly efficient team. The problem is simply that the plane is going too fast, and there is nothing within the realm of knowledge, or at least logic, to explain it. Unbeknownst to passenger and crew, this aeroplane is heading into an uncharted region, well off the beaten track of commercial travelers. It's moving into the Twilight Zone.
One aspect this episode excels in is its brisk pacing. Early on, the plane hits a mysterious jet stream, sending it speeding off blindly to God knows where.
Did we hit something?
And just like that, we as viewers are stranded with this crew and their passengers for the remainder of the journey. As the Odyssey of Flight 33 unfolds, we learn all radio contact is gone, and our crew has no clue where they are.
We're in trouble.
How bad?
They don't know yet.
Longtime Twilight Zone fans will likely recognize some of the familiar faces here, all of whom appeared in many episodes across the series. Our steadfast Captain Farver, as played by John Anderson, featured in a Season 1 episode, A Passage for Trumpet. He'd go on to appear in the later episodes of Late I Think of Cliffordville and The Old Man in a Cave.
Give me a fast position check.
Skipper, we are past Gander. We must be doing 3,000 knots.
Our navigator, as played by Sandy Kenyon, showed up in The Shelter and Valley of the Shadow.
Like my late husband always used to say, I've got a stomach that's just like...
But we also have Paul Comey and Betty Gard. Bonus points to anyone who can name which Twilight Zone episodes they appeared in, without Googling.
Everybody's shook up, they're curious, they're also plenty scared.
Them and me.
As I've noted before, one of the aspects I enjoy on first watches of Twilight Zone episodes are the moments when something bizarre occurs and we're given clues as to what may be happening. But here Serling wisely plays things close to the chest, and I think the episode is all the better for that. We basically sort out what's happening right along with our characters.
I don't see any...
Any what, Jenny? Any city, right?
Ultimately, the captain decides to take the plane below the clouds, and this is where we get the awesome reveal that somehow they've traveled back in time to the prehistoric age. The reveal that the Odyssey of Flight 33 is actually a time travel story instantly gives this one points in my book. Some of my favorite movies and TV shows growing up all featured time travel, and when it comes to the Twilight Zone, well, this show tended to hit those types of stories out of the park. Thankfully, this entry is equally compelling and unique in and of itself. And as viewers of this channel may know, I'm also a big fan of stop motion. That said, we'll touch on the creation of this sequence more in a bit. But needless to say, the few seconds we get here of this brontosaurus mugging for the camera seals the deal in terms of me loving this one.
I love it!
As the story progresses, the captain decides their only chance of return into 1961 is to catch the same jet stream home. Following another flash of light and some nasty turbulence, it would seem they're successful. New York City is once again visible, minus any dinosaurs. However, we as viewers know that seemed way too easy. And of course, it's soon revealed via a glimpse of the New York World's Fair below that, yes, they made it back, but only to the year 1939.
We came back. Dear God, not far enough.
It's at this point that the tension is ramped up. Now they're low on fuel, and their last-ditch effort is to try the same trick again to get home. And I will say at this point, our closing scene sets a rather bleak tone.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. We're going to try to increase our speed and go back through the same sound barrier we've already done twice before. All I ask of you is that you remain calm and pray.
And with that, we're essentially left hanging as Rod Serling wraps up the nightmare with his closing narration.
A global jet airliner, en route from London to New York on an uneventful afternoon in the year 1961. But now reported overdue and missing, and by now searched for on land, sea, and air by anguished human beings, fearful of what they'll find. But you and I know where she is. You and I know what's happened. So if some moment, any moment, you hear the sound of jet engines flying atop the overcast, engines that sound searching and lost, engines that sound desperate, shoot up a flare or do something, that would be Global 33 trying to get home from the Twilight Zone.
First off, we have to discuss the unresolved ending. I understand there's a need for closure in many cases. However, I don't think a simple happy ending or even a decidedly dark ending would have served this particular story. Here, ambiguity was the way to go. Just as the crew and passengers of Global Airlines Flight 33 are left nervously awaiting their fate, we too are left with that same unsettling sensation. As Serling himself once noted, the greatest fear of all is fear of the unknown. And here Serling once again capitalizes on that idea.
What I'm about to tell you is something I can't explain myself. Your crew is as much in the dark as you are.
In some sci-fi stories, there's a semblance of control when it comes to the destination of the time traveler. But in this episode, that all goes out the window. I think we're meant to be left uneasy and pondering if this plane is doomed to be lost in time. And Serling himself certainly hammers this point home when he states, if at some point we hear the sound of jet engines searching and lost, shoot up a flare or do something because that would be Global 33 trying to get home. It's a chilling message to leave us with, but it's quite memorable. The Odyssey of Flight 33 also plays off everything from the mythic Flying Dutchman tale I mentioned earlier to every horror story we've ever heard of actual planes that have sadly gone mysteriously missing. Feel free to go down the internet rabbit hole on that grim subject if you have a few days to spare.
Skipper, verify something for me, would you? And in a hurry? Look!
On a more upbeat note, let's talk about my favorite moment in the episode, the stop-motion dinosaur. As noted by Martin Grams Jr. in Unlocking the Door to a Television Classic, credit for this creature not only goes to Jack H. Harris, but also the team at Project Unlimited, particularly Marcel Delgado and his brother Victor, who sculpted this creature for the 1960 Universal film
Dinosaurus, the most amazing, astounding, astonishing adventure of them all.
Now, to be clear, the footage in this episode is unique and wasn't simply taken from Dinosaurus. However, the same model and miniature jungle were used to create the sequence at the same time as the production of Dinosaurus. And even though the creation of this sequence was rather costly, in my view it was totally worth it. That said, if you want to see even more of this Brontosaurus outside of the fifth dimension, go ahead and check him out in Dinosaurus, where he can be found in all his glory, and in color.
No one's driving the plane.
Speaking of material somewhat related to this episode, I may as well mention Stephen King's Langoliers, which is often cited in fan discussions as being inspired by this tale.
Suppose we have slipped into another dimension.
Lastly, for those of you who just can't get enough of The Odyssey of Flight 33, there's also the 2008 graphic novel by Mark Neese. A perfect read for comic book fans who might be interested in a different take on the story. This retelling features a rather unhinged passenger dead set on parachuting off the plane. And yes, there's even more dinosaur action.
Well, what do you think, Skipper?
Overall, this episode is yet another compelling take on time travel, and it's a worthy entry in the series. As far as criticisms go, there's not too much this time around. I will say the focus was very much on the crew, and I wouldn't have minded seeing a bit more in terms of reactions from the passengers. Most of us who travel aren't up front at the controls. We're cramped in a passenger section with our ears popping and hoping to reach our destinations as quickly as possible. So it's somewhat of a missed opportunity in terms of relatability to have not gotten a little more of the passenger's point of view. After all, it's not every day someone could see dinosaurs and the World's Fair all in one afternoon. That aside, the Odyssey of Flight 33 is easily another top tier entry in the series. I'd rate this one 4 out of 5 brontosauruses mugging at the camera. Thanks for flying with me today. If you've seen this classic episode and have your own thoughts on it, feel free to comment below. And if you enjoyed this review, stay tuned, there's a lot more to come. For now, stay safe, be well, and I'll see you next time in the 5th dimension. Later.
Remember, you're the friendly vegetarian like it says on the cereal box.